Clams are fascinating little animals. They have no brain, a single large retractable foot, and a shell. Even though this might not seem like a formula for success, clams are arguably one of the most successful organisms to exist. Clams, which are more formally known as bivalve mollusks, have existed for over 500 million years. That is longer than any animal or plant species has been on land. And while some clam species are microscopic, other modern species can be larger than a microwave oven. There are even historical populations that could get almost as big as a monster truck tire. Some only live a year, and some can live half a millennia. Even with that size and age difference, almost all of them reproduce in a similar manner. Clams are generally dioecious. This means there are male and female clams. A sizable population of clams are hermaphrodites. Either they contain both sexes at once, or have the capability to change into the other. Your average clam starts out as a male, even though they don't look like your typical clam early off. They freely move about the water, eating and growing to look more like a typical clam. They do this until they are big enough to settle on the ground. Being a male at this early stage is an advantage for clams, given that male reproductive cells are far smaller and require less resources to produce than female reproductive cells. This allows young clams to spend more time and energy feeding and growing. Once clams reach a certain size, which varies from species to species, they no longer need to invest as much energy and resources to grow, and can instead use them for reproduction. This is typically when a clam's body changes to produce eggs rather than sperm, changing its sex in the process. Reproduction is done once the water temperature reaches a certain point. This once again varies from species to species. Once this point is met, younger juvenile clams and older, more developed clams will release millions upon millions of their respected sex cells individually into the water currents, hoping that these cells will meet. This means their reproduction is based around chance. Once male and female clam sex cells meet to form a single new cell, it will immediately start dividing. From there, it eventually forms a small male, which will grow into a free-moving larva, and later settle as previously mentioned. Out of the millions, potentially billions of clams that are produced during their reproductive season, only 10% will survive. With all of that, it's important to note that clams and mussels have a very different means of reproduction and should not be confused with one another. Mussels are actually parasitic for a portion of their life. Adults try to implant their offspring into a host, typically fish. Some even have special lures that look like small fish to trick a potential host into nibbling on them. And bam! An explosion of babies, both of which are different from oysters, which unlike clams stay latched on a single spot for almost the entirety of their life, while managing to have similar reproduction methods. They also are the only one to produce pearls out of the three. And lastly, clams, mussels, and oysters are well known for their aphrodisiacs. Eating them can increase the sex drive in people, so you can argue they are so good at sex that they make everybody else want to do it too.